My name is Megan, and this is Everything Lit. Today, I'm going to talk about my most favorite reads of 2022, my favorite books of 2022, however you want to say it. This list is kind of all over the place. I kind of picked my favorites based on the different genres because I have such a hard time stacking something like The Sea of Tranquility against Dating Dr. Dill. You know, they're two different genres, so I have some honorable mentions, and then I have like my top 10 that are in order of 10 to number 1 most favorite book of the year. Let's start with the honorable mentions. First honorable mention is nonfiction. That is The Woman They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore. This is one of only 2 nonfiction books I read this year, but this was just so fantastic. I was like crying. I was angry on behalf of this woman. It was so well written, so well researched, so emotional, and I need to pick up Radium Girls. Like, I needed to mention this. This is about Elizabeth Packard. She is put into a mental institution and she is completely sane. She's put into this institution because she disagrees with her husband on faith-related matters. And he takes offense to this and decides if she doesn't agree with me, she must be insane. And it is her journey and her fight to get released from the asylum and to prove her sanity. And then to free other women who have been wrongfully imprisoned, basically, in these asylums. We have 2 horror honorable mentions because I don't usually read the horror genre, but these were standouts. I have The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This is a thriller horror. It has ghost story vibes. This is a rambling house in Scotland. It's very high tech. This involves a woman becoming a nanny to this rich family. She's sort of thrown into it after she gets the job. And then you find out in the first chapter, one of the children ends up dead. And this is looking back on how that happened and what was going on in this house. The other horror honorable mention is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is a Carrie remix, and it does stay pretty faithful to the story of Carrie. So if you know what that is about, it involves telekinesis, a girl who is bullied gaining power. Very interesting, and I just wanted to mention it because I genuinely was so engrossed in this, I then had a dream about it. I have 3 romance honorable mentions, and I'm just gonna throw them up real quick. That is Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. This involves kind of enemies to lovers, a woman who doesn't want to settle for anything less than crazy in love, and a man who doesn't believe love exists. The other honorable mention is Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. This is a female-female romance. It's very sexy, age gap, and like best friend's mom kind of story. I loved it. I thought the way their romance was built was really wonderful and slow while also being super steamy. And third, we have The Matzo Ball by Jean Meltzer. I'm going to talk more about this in my December wrap-up, but I really loved the way this story was built. It is very rom-com with hilarious shenanigans, and basically these 2 characters were summer camp enemies, but really they were secretly dating. They each think the other person betrayed them. There's a little bit of miscommunication, but it is well earned, well explained. This also has good chronic illness rep. It was just hilarious and wonderful, and it made me tear up. And the last honorable mention I have to have, Up to No Gouda by Linda Riley. My best friend actually got this for me for Christmas. I loved it so much. It has kicked off my cozy mystery obsession. This is about a woman who owns a grilled cheese shop. The person who owns the building that she's renting from decides that he wants to give this space to his girlfriend, and he's gonna kick her out even though she's a great paying tenant. And then the next day he ends up dead, and her best server, or really her only server because it's a small shop, gets accused of the murder. So she tries to solve the murder to clear her friend's name. are you ready? Let's get into the official top 10, my favorite books of the year. And in place number 10 is The King of Infinite Space by Lindsay Fay. This is a book that I picked up at the very tail end of 21 when Barnes & Noble had their big all hardcovers are 50% off. That is like the 1 or 2 times a year when I let myself kind of browse what sounds interesting and what's new and pick up 1 or 2 hardcovers that maybe I haven't heard of and they just look good. And this was one of them, and oh my gosh, I know how to pick a book, okay? This is actually a Hamlet retelling. It takes place in New York City. It has interesting dream sequences, and it follows Ben, Horatio, and Leah. And Ben's father has just died. He is the owner of a theater. Now Ben wants to take over the theater company. He is dealing with the loss of his dad, the fact that his mom has just married his uncle, and Horatio flies back from, I think, London to New York to help Ben get through this. And Leah has moved in with 3 women who she thinks of as witches because of the way they use herbs and flowers to sort of make things happen. People come to them for spells, and she wants to learn about what is happening. I don't even have words for how much I liked this book. I have actually bought like 4 other Lindsay Fay books now because this took me on a journey. It was well written. I liked the characters. Just if you like the story of Hamlet, I would suggest this retelling because it was wonderful. In spot number 9, it's a booktube favorite for a reason. We have The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This follows Evelyn Hugo throughout her. She is telling her story to a young reporter. It follows her rise and fall and rise again in Hollywood from I think the 50s up until current day. I flew through this book, absolutely loved the character of Evelyn Hugo. I wanted to not include it in this list just because it has so much hype already, but that would be disingenuous because I really enjoyed it and I want to read all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's other books. That was a tough sentence. In place number 8 on my list is Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardus. I read this in January. This is a sort of a Snow White retelling. It was imaginative and interesting and original while feeling familiar. Absolutely loved it. I saw this on BookTube a ton when it first came out in like 2016, 2017, but I haven't heard people talk about it since, and it is just wonderful. So this follows Mina and Lynette. Mina is the evil stepmother, but it really shows us her childhood and her father and how she became the stepmother and the queen. And then it follows Lynette, who is the princess, who feels very like a tomboy and very disconnected. There is also a female-female romance in here, and it's just, I think what I love most about this is the twist on a familiar tale. This is almost a mashup of Snow White and the Snow Queen. I just enjoyed it, and her second book is coming out in paperback in January, and I already have it pre-ordered, so cannot wait to read that. In spot number 7 on my list is Less by Andrew Sean Greer. This is a Pulitzer Prize winner, and I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to books that have won awards, I'm usually pretty jaded because I think misery wins. Misery often is the deeper story, but this is such a lovely book about a man trying to grapple with heartbreak and being not as successful as he wanted and not having the life that he imagined for himself. And basically, Arthur Less, his boyfriend, is getting married. Well, his ex-boyfriend is getting married And how does he deal with this grief? He is a writer and he gets invitations to all kinds of conferences and talks. And what does he do? He accepts all of them. So it is him traveling around the world, meeting up with old friends, making new friends. It was just so wonderful. And I think what is wonderful about this book is the way it is told. It's so gentle and kind and funny. And this also has a sequel, which I'm very excited to read. In spot number 6, we have Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I feel like I've talked about it a lot in the past few days. This is a female-female romance, and it is so much, I don't want to say more than that, but it's a lot more complex than that. It really deals with Delilah and coming to terms with the family dynamics she grew up with, reconnecting, and coming to a place of understanding with her stepsister, but also falling in love with one of her stepsister's best friends. Just, what more can I say? It has stuck with me in the way that these characters are so enamored with each other, and the images, the tension, it was just so good. And then I had a sticky note on the back of the book because I didn't want to forget, but I don't own the next book on this list. So in place number 5 is Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. And this is a YA fantasy that involves a kitsune. So she's part human, part fox, and they're like troublemaking entities, mythical creatures. I mean, she's a girl, and she has to protect a scroll, and she gathers a band of people who go on this quest. It's a very traditional storyline. You know, you have the quest, you have the hero and their band of friends who try to accomplish this quest, but it was so fun, and I just loved each of the characters. This is the first book in a trilogy, so I cannot wait to read the rest of the trilogy, and I think I'm going to buy all 3 books at some point and just binge the other 2 because I loved it so much. And I actually listened to this on audio, and maybe I'll just get audio of the other 2 because it was so good. I was engrossed. I actually couldn't listen to it too much at work because I would get distracted. And with audiobooks, that doesn't happen too often, where the audiobook, I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, I can't listen to this anymore. I'm not getting anything done. In 4th place, we have I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This is YA. I love Casey McQuiston. Anytime she comes out with a book, it's probably going to be on this list. This is about Chloe. On prom night, Shara Wheeler, her academic rival, kisses her, and then she disappears. Chloe finds out that Shara also kissed Shara's boyfriend and her next door neighbor. And these 3 have to band together and figure out, where did Shara go? Why did she kiss all 3 of them? And she leaves them notes to lead them on this hunt and have them all really get to understand her better. I thought this was really fun. I thought it was interesting. I loved it. I think the characters are complex. The main storyline, of course, is Chloe trying to find Shara, coming to terms with being in a small town and being queer, but also the side characters come to their own storylines. Just Casey McQuiston, I love her. Fantastic. In 3rd place, we have The Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. I love Emily St. John Mandel. This video is just authors I love. But this is such a gentle story, and it's hopeful despite a lot of sad things happening. It deals with the theory that we're in a simulation, and what if that's true? And what if it's not? It has several different storylines, and I think probably what got me for this one is that it does have characters from Station 11 and from The Glass Hotel in it, though they are a small part and you don't have to have read those to understand this. I think it did deepen my experience, and the main character of this, all the main characters, because it has several storylines, were wonderful. I think there's just some quality about Emily St. John Mandel's writing that is understanding, not empathetic, but maybe empathetic and hopeful and kind and wonderful. Like, this book made me cry. Maybe that's how you get in the top 3. You make me cry. Because the next book also made me cry, and that is Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. This is my number 2 favorite book of the year. This is about the people who live at the Delawisp, which is a condominium on Mallow Island in South Carolina. And this island is famous for its marshmallows. Zoe inherits her mother's condominium. She has just turned 18, so she's moving in, and she wants to make friends with the woman who lives downstairs, who is a henna artist, the man who lives across the way and works at the local hotel restaurant as the chef. It is so gentle. It is about lonely people finding family and making your own family when you don't have anyone else. It made me cry. Wonderful. Love it. I bought the Barnes & Noble special edition because I need 2 copies, okay? Don't judge. My most favorite book of the year, the book that I have thought about for the past 2 months since I finished it, the book that I want to reread, the book that has made me interested in all of this author's other works, is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This book took me on a journey. I have a vlog where I read this and I'm like, I think I might DNF it. I don't know. It's really unsettling. It's really weird. It's really creepy. And then there's a turning point and I listened to this on audio and then bought it. I couldn't stop listening. I had to finish it. I don't have the words. This is such a master class in leading your reader to the conclusions you want them to believe. Now, there are going to be a lot of people who maybe understand more than I did, and maybe reading it physically, I would have gotten more hints about what was actually happening in the book, but this book got me. It got me good. I cried. I had that like heartache that is worse than crying. I wanted to immediately reread it once I finished it. It was everything. Fantastic. What is this book actually about? Well, there are 3 points of view. We have Ted, who lives in a boarded up house at the end of the street, and we have Dee, who just moved in next door, and Olivia the cat, who just wants Ted to be happy. And Dee has moved in next door because her sister disappeared years ago and she thinks Ted is responsible. So she's here to investigate and figure out, did he do it? But we're also getting Ted's point of view of just living his daily life and his struggles because his mother died in the recent past. I think it's been maybe a year, and he's still dealing with coming to terms with what happened and how that came about. I'm not giving a good description of what this book is. I'm having a hard time describing this book because I don't want to spoil anything, because the plot is so character driven, and it's just, the way this is written is mind-blowing. I'm gonna say mind-blowing. Just the craft. I'm gonna stop now. So those were my 10 favorite books of the year, plus some extras. Let me know what your favorite book of the year is. What books have really stuck with you this year, you want to read again. If you like this video, if you want to see what next year's books are, go ahead and subscribe, like, do whatever you want, and I'll see you next time.